12 News is your local election headquarters with more in-depth coverage of yesterday's Rhode Island primary. We are joined live at 4 by 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi. And Ted, I think I saw that you were still tweeting about the race at about 4 a.m.
Yes, that would be correct.
I assume you're pretty well caffeinated right now.
I am. I'm filled with coffee and adrenaline. So I am here and I'm ready to talk about politics. Yes. We want to take a look at the final result from last night. We want to kind of break it down by individual candidate. Let's start with the two who did not emerge victorious. First, Helena Foulkes. She lost, but she still impressed a lot of people with her final push. She really came amazingly close, considering she was still way behind in our poll only a month ago. It looks like Foulkes will finish only about 3,000 votes behind Dan McKee. Obviously not the result her team wanted, but it's still a somewhat remarkable outcome when you realize Foulkes more than doubled her support over just the last month. One of the big factors in her late momentum, people agree, her performance in the WPRI 12 debate last Tuesday, especially when she aced those pop quiz questions that Tim White asked. But of course, there are also questions about what Foulkes could have done differently to close the gap and actually beat Dan McKee, such as maybe going on TV with ads sooner or potentially calling for televised debates earlier. A little Monday morning quarterbacking today.
Of course, and Ted, another reason we are hearing frequently to explain the late momentum for Foulkes is the late collapse of Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea's campaign. Many people thought that she was positioned to win just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, Kim, Gorbea did get 25% of the vote, but that overstates, I think, where she was by the very end of the campaign. When you look at the breakdown of the sets of votes, Gorbea came within 30 votes of winning the early in-person vote across the state of Rhode Island, and she was a strong second in the mail ballots. But she placed a fairly distant third among voters who cast their ballots in person yesterday on primary day. And that's a strong sign that Gorbea lost a lot of ground at the end after all those late mistakes and errors involving her campaign ads and the electronic ballots. Really a striking fall from grace for a candidate who was often described earlier in the campaign as a favorite to win.
All right, so let's talk about a few winners here. That, of course, leaves the winner of the Democratic primary, Dan McKee. Another close race for him, though.
Yeah, Dan McKee, he never wins easily, but he always does win. Just like 4 years ago, people might remember, McKee won a close primary then to stay on as lieutenant governor, hanging onto his seat, of course, positioning him to become the governor when Gina Raimondo left. Well, last night he held on to the gubernatorial nomination based on early voting, even though he lost to Foulkes on primary day with the votes cast yesterday. Our Eli Sherman just crunched all the numbers. He found McKee won 22 cities and towns and ran strong in his home base of the Blackstone Valley. And Eli actually, just as I was coming on air, posted an interactive map on WPRI.com so you can see how all the cities and towns voted in the primary for governor. Some interesting town-by-town results.
Something fun for us political junkies. It's really interesting to see the breakdown of both the cities and towns and also those buckets of votes early in person.
And Gorbea still won the city of Providence, even though she came in third last night. Not usually what you see in a Democratic primary.
Really fascinating stuff. 12 News politics editor Ted Nesi, thank you, and he will be back at 5:30 with some more analysis. Ted, thanks.
Good to be here.